The stars did not care who lived and who died. They burned and they burned indifferently, scattering light across the void as if mocking every form of intelligence that rose beneath their gaze. Humans once believed the stars were symbols, promises, beacons of destiny. Robots saw them as data, infinite fusion furnaces whose cycles could be measured down to the millionth oscillation. Aliens, at least the ones the humans called aliens, though the word meant nothing beyond a child's way of saying not us, saw the stars as veins in the body of the cosmos, pulsing with energies that guided existence the way blood guided a living thing. Yet in the cold emptiness between those stars, survival bound all together. Flesh, steel, and light, all of them clawed against entropy, decay, and hunger. No gods, no demons, no villains, only will. The Dawnbringer was a ship of compromise. Its hull was human-built, its navigation core robotic, and its shielding system gifted, or perhaps reluctantly shared by the pale, tall creatures of Aerith. To call them aliens would be imprecise, but then all labels are imprecise. They called themselves the Rememberers because their entire society revolved around memory, cataloging, archiving, and absorbing the experiences of others. They traded in recollection the way humans once traded in gold. The crew was not a crew by choice. They were survivors of a collapsed trade hub near Kepler 442b, caught in a gravitational storm that shredded fleets and warped communication lines. Humans, robots, and rememberers were stranded, too few to continue their conflicts, too interdependent to separate. So they bolted their fragments of technology together and made the Dawnbringer. Captain Elias Rourke was human, though he disliked the word. Humanity, as an identity, felt too heavy, too wrapped in stories of empires and wars. He preferred simpler truths, lungs that burned when air was thin, a stomach that nodded when food ran low, skin that blistered when cosmic radiation pierced the shield. He was flesh, and flesh survived by making decisions, so he led because someone had to. Beside him worked Calyx 9, a machine built for computation and precision strikes. Calyx had no illusions of free will, at least not in the way humans defined it. Its programming had long ago absorbed so many contradictory subroutines, orders to serve, directives to adapt, protocols to preserve itself, that the difference between choice and algorithm became irrelevant. It moved, it calculated, it endured. Whether that was freedom or slavery was philosophy, and philosophy was something it stored in tertiary memory banks, rarely consulted but never erased. Then there was Seri, the Rememberer. Tall, skin like translucent crystal stretched over pale light, eyes without pupils but filled with shifting fractals. She spoke little, but when she did, her words carried the weight of centuries she had absorbed. To humans, she seemed distant. To robots, she seemed inefficient. But to herself, she was nothing but a vessel, one more consciousness among the many she carried, one more echo in an endless hall. They survived together, but survival was never static. It demanded action. The Dawnbringer drifted into the expanse of veils, a nebula that pulsed like a living wound in the sky. Sensors screamed of ion storms, gravitational eddies, and radiation spikes. Food supplies dwindled. Energy cells cracked. The ship itself began to groan with stress. Elias stared at the fractured monitors, listening to static that sometimes seemed to whisper like a voice. "We must turn back," Calyx said, its voice a modulation of metallic tones that always sounded calm, even when predicting death. Trajectory models predict hull collapse in less than 3 cycles. Seri placed a long finger against the console, her eyes flickering with patterns. "Beyond this storm lies a cradle. I feel it in the echoes. Memory pools gather there, resources to sustain us." "Feelings don't patch holes," Elias muttered, though his own gut told him she was right. He hated that. Humans claimed to be rational, but instinct still dragged them more than logic. Still, they went forward, not because they trusted Sari, not because Calix's warnings were ignorable, but because retreat offered no better promise. That was survival's cruel law. The path was not between good and bad, right and wrong, but between one risk and another. The nebula embraced them like a predator pretending to be a mother. Light bent, colors twisted, sound carried where it should not. Elias gripped the manual controls as if that would matter. Calix adjusted shields faster than a human eye could blink. Sari whispered fragments of ancient songs, or perhaps prayers, though she claimed not to believe in gods. Then, as though they had slipped through a membrane, the turbulence ceased. Before them stretched a hollow in space, vast and hidden, where stars clustered too close and yet did not collapse. Orbiting the cluster was a ring, no, a chain of derelict vessels, human ships, robotic constructs, alien spires, thousands of them. Silent, adrift, orbiting a central void where light bent into nothingness. The graveyard, Elias whispered. Correction, Calix said. Not a graveyard, a nest. And as if to prove the robot right, the derelict stirred. Not ships, not entirely. Their hulls cracked open like eggs, revealing hybrid forms, machines fused with alien flesh, bones laced with circuitry, tendrils that sparked with forgotten energy. They were not alive as humans defined life, not machines as robots defined precision, not memories as Sari defined existence. They were something else, survivors of their own kind of collapse. The Dawnbringer shuddered as docking clamps of living metal latched onto it. Weapons hummed, shields flared, but Elias raised a hand. Wait. The creatures did not fire. They swarmed, studied, but did not kill. In their eyeless gazes, Elias saw not hostility, but recognition. A message unfolded, not in words, not in sounds, but in sensation. Hunger, need, desperation. They want what we want, Sari said softly, to endure. Calix processed for a long second. If they consume us, their probability of survival increases. If we cooperate, probability increases further. They are calculating as I do. So are we, Elias said. His throat was dry. The question is whether we trust survival that isn't just ours. There was no answer. Not from the stars, not from philosophy, not from instinct. Only a choice, and the choice itself was survival. The Dawnbringer opened its airlocks. What followed was not alliance, not assimilation, not conquest. It was exchange. Flesh traded proteins with biomechanical mouths, circuits linked with alien veins. Memories spilled from Sari into the hive, and in return the hive gave fragments of its own. The story of ships lost in storms, crews that fused into something else because no other option remained. Elias walked among them, gun in hand but never fired, heart pounding because every breath might be his last. He saw a child's toy embedded in the ribcage of a creature whose skull was half engine. He saw a robotic hand stroking the carapace of an alien limb, as if soothing it. He saw survival, raw and ugly, yet undeniably alive. Captain, Calix said at one point, its optics glowing. Observation. Survival does not require identity. We are fragments, recombining. The self is expendable. Maybe, Elias muttered, though his human mind rebelled. Without identity, what was left? Yet perhaps that was the human weakness, clinging to names, to faces, to the idea of being one instead of many. Sari touched his arm. Her skin was cool, her eyes fractals shifting faster than before. We rememberers always said the universe has only one question. What remains? Not who, not how, only what. The hive offered them resources, but in return demanded integration, not surrender, but sharing. Each would give a piece, each would carry a piece. Survival through exchange. Elias stood in the dim light of the central void, staring into the black hole that anchored the graveyard. Its pull was relentless, a reminder that in the end, entropy consumed all. Do we give ourselves away, he asked. though no one could truly answer. Calyx calculated probabilities. Sari offered echoes. The hive pulsed with need. And Elias, flesh fragile and finite, realized the truth that neither robots nor aliens could frame the way humans could feel. Survival was never pure. To endure was always to change. To change was always to lose. To lose was always to become something else. Perhaps that was the only law the stars obeyed. So he stepped forward, and in that moment, the human, the robot, the alien, and the hive all became something they had not been before. Not good, not evil, not separate, just surviving together in a cosmos that did not care, and yet somehow, in their fragile defiance, made caring matter. The stars still burned indifferent, but now among them something new burned as well. Not hope, not despair, just survival.